Shinsekai Yori is the most action-packed, get-down-and-dirty yaoi manservice fest that has ever graced the anime stage. Rising over the top of instant classics like Danmachi, Attack on Titan, and Sword Art Online, Shinsekai Yori stands at the pinnacle of A1 Pictures' massive log of successful and critically acclaimed works. Hi, my name is Sent, and welcome to my review and analysis of Shinsekai Yori, or From the New World. Shinsekai Yori is a 2012 A1 Pictures production that I believe is the best thing to come out of that confusion of a studio, with honorable mention to Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso. Unlike the vast majority of anime, it is based on an actual novel written by Yusuke Kishi. Masashi Ishihama is the director. Never heard of him, let's see what's on his mal. Ooh, key animation for Sword of the Stranger, Fooly Cooly, Digimon, Jinro, Gurren Lagann. Quite a good track record. Jeez, this is the first series he's directed. Just like the last show I did a review on. Anyways, Shinsekai Yori is set 1,000 years into the future, and as the story goes, humans began to develop unlimited psychic abilities in the 21st century. Keyword here being unlimited, and this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Shinsekai Yori's uniqueness. This unlimited power that certain humans suddenly found themselves with led to terrorism, war, and generally apocalyptic circumstances that got worse and worse over the 1,000-year period between the 21st century and the time of the anime's setting. In the present day, a utopian society has been established, and that is where our main character, Saki, finds herself. I should say right now that if I were to explain the premise and all the constructs within Shinsekai Yori, we'd be here all day because this show is primarily a world-building show, and it builds its world beautifully. This creation of a well-constructed post-apocalyptic world that explores many facets of society and morality, as well as its seamless integration of scientific and supernatural elements, are, in my opinion, Shinsekai Yori's strongest traits, and are what most people will stay for while watching it, myself included. Shinsekai Yori follows our 5 main characters, Saki, Shun, Satoru, Maria, and Mamoru through 3 different periods in their lives. The first takes place when they are 12, the next when they are 14, and the last when they are 26. The entire series is narrated by an older Saki. In cohesion with its world building, the time skips represent the growth of our characters, both in comprehension of the world around them and understanding of their feelings for one another. But here's the first issue I have with Shinsekai Yori. Its characters, frankly, are not interesting. For example, when I try to think about what defines Saki, I can't really say anything concrete about her. She likes Shun, she has a strong sense of duty, but there's nothing very unique about her that makes her the thing that carries the show. Sure, the decisions she makes are what push the story forward, but I think that pretty much anyone would do the same thing in her shoes. And to be honest, I think that's okay. I still think it's a flaw, but this show's goal is to build a world and also present us with the hypothetical society of a post-apocalyptic utopia that is conscience-raising in multiple ways. Believe me, I wished that the 5 kids were gonna change the entire world for the better, but that's not what happens at all. And since that's the path that the author decided to set the story on, that's totally fine, and it didn't bother me in the slightest while I was binge watching it for an entire night. And I don't binge watch a lot of shows. The fact that I did for this one is a testament to how well it kept my attention and made me keep wanting to watch another episode, and another, and another. It is very easy to become immersed in Shinsekai Yori. With all its great visuals, tonal music, and well, the actual story, the atmosphere of the show is enveloping. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. The feeling I remember most vividly about watching this show for the first time is the constant feeling of dread that is always present. The slowness of the first few episodes can be off-putting, and it can seem like the show isn't going to get where it wants to go within an acceptable time. But on the contrary, it never feels like nothing is happening. Every single one of the first 7 episodes, which composes the childhood arc, introduces or expands on a facet of the world. However, I can't really say I like the huge exposition dump that they throw at you in the 4th episode. The stuff that they find out is insanely interesting to be sure, but for a while it feels like there's no mystery anymore. That is, until episode 9 and onwards, where the show really hits its stride. The first arc of Shinsekai Yori is still really great, though it's probably my least favorite. This show expertly creates the feeling that though these kids have unlimited psychic power, they have next to no control over the world they live in, and that is truly fitting, considering that, as I'll talk more about later, one of the main themes is humanity being powerless despite all their abilities. Shinsekai Yori does fall somewhat into the horror genre, not only because of its actual content, but also because at some points the shot composition changes along with the color palette to the point where it literally feels like I am living through a nightmare. And there's a couple compositions on the original soundtrack, which is amazing by the way, go figure, that make the mood of the show really dark. Now, don't get the wrong idea, its focus is not to shock the viewer, just make you a bit uncomfortable. The terrifying things that happen in Shinsekai Yori are always used to grow the world and build it into a place that is unknown, vast, and dangerous, which is a tone it retains throughout its 25-episode run, even during its mass explanation moments. Let's talk briefly about visuals. Art-wise, I found the style to be appealing and fitting. Like I was saying earlier, the style changes subtly, and the color shifts greatly during more crazy, twisted situations to reflect the tone of the scene. This is done remarkably well, especially during episodes 5 and 10. And, well, I suppose you can see for yourself whether the style of the show is something that speaks to you personally. As for animation quality, well, there's no gorgeously choreographed battle scenes in this show on account of everyone being psychic, so I can't really say much in that department. Shinsekai Yori does in fact have relatively fluid animation, but it's nothing amazingly spectacular. It's simply serviceable. I'm just going to point out the one facet of animation that stuck out to me the most, which is unfortunately negative. The CG rock launch. What? Shot composition is very important for setting and reinforcing the tone in any piece of video media, and it is used very well in Shinsekai Yori. Why is it good? Well, it's things like the transition between Saki's conversation with Tomiko and her story about an encounter with a fiend. It's things like the scene of Saki's showdown with a karmic demon, wherein many facial close-ups are used to emphasize emotion. It's the Dutch angles used during what I like to call the nightmare scenes. And it's the scenes from the past, which have a style obviously inspired by classical Japanese artistry. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Shinsekai Yori is really a tone piece in its execution. Continuing with my emphasis on tone, let's talk about music, one of, if not the most important attribute of tone control in animation and film. Shinsekai Yori has some real standout tracks in its soundtrack, including Sign of Jyuryouku and Kagi no Denshoka Dai Ichibu, or the traditional Song of Shadows, the latter of which is the composition that most will recognize, as it is the piece that plays at the beginning of every episode of the show. These pieces of music are insanely good at creating an atmosphere of supernatural, mysterious danger. As well, the ending credits song, Broken Apple, is one of those anime songs that I listen to quite regularly. Alright, let's get to the heavy stuff. The biggest reason why I personally like Shinsekai Yori are the complex and thought-provoking ways that it presents society. Without spoiling anything, Shinsekai Yori is essentially an imagining of how humankind could end up in the future, even if we don't develop telekinesis. It shows how humanity is, in the end, responsible for its own problems, and how even the barriers that are erected to protect human society and well-being can become the very things that we wanted to stop. A lot of the events that happen in the show, especially during the final arc, are laughably ironic, though admittedly quite terrifying as well. Humanity truly has brought its fears upon itself in the end. But at the same time, Shinsekai Yori also raises the question of whether humans are intrinsically good. Of course, we, being people, are inclined to think so, and without mulling it over too much, we'll root for the humans, the people that are most familiar to us while watching the show. But some of the decisions that this utopian society makes are frankly horrifying, even if it's for the greater good. Ultimately, it's really up to you and me, the viewers, to decide for ourselves what ideas presented in Shinsekai Yori are correct, if any. And I think that's really the beauty of this show. It raised my conscience, and I hope it raises yours, to being more open-minded, to seeing more than just one perspective, and to understanding a bit better that just because something is different, it doesn't mean it's bad. Not too often does a narrative do this to any meaningful degree. I mean, in a lot of stories, there might be an underlying thought in the protagonist's mind that the bad guy might not be as bad as we think, but usually it doesn't matter in the end, because the protagonist will reaffirm their values, and then it's back to business as usual, defeat the enemy and fight for a better tomorrow. Shinsekai Yori has nothing of the sort. It left me with something to ponder. Was what ended up happening really the best possible outcome for the world? So, let me respond to the question any review should answer. Is this anime worth your time? Should you watch it? And my response is a confident yes. Please do yourself the favor. To rephrase my opening statement, Shinsekai Yori is an amazingly unique experience filled with moral ambiguity and thought-provoking themes, all contained within an exciting and mysterious backdrop. Its major flaw is its lack of character strength, but it more than makes up for that with its other aspects. If you're looking for a fresh take on the post-apocalyptic genre laced with psychic powers and a shady utopian society, this is a series that you should definitely consider watching. On that note, thank you for watching this review. It was really fun to make, for the most part, and it's been a long time coming. I mean, I've been talking about doing this since the summer. Anyways, have a great new year, and I'll see you guys later.